It's Julia Renee.
And Kendall Aaliyah. Welcome back to the Know Your Power podcast.
We're live. Welcome back, guys.
Okay.
Live from Julia's house.
That's what I was going to say.
Live from New York. I'm watching How I Met Your Mother again.
I saw.
Yeah, on Hulu.
Yeah.
After that, I'm going to watch Gilmore Girls.
So good. I'm not done with it. I've slowed down now. I force myself to only watch it during cardio to get me excited for cardio.
I've noticed you've started slowing down.
Yeah.
Because usually when I would log on, yours was always first on there, which means that you watched it recently. And now sometimes it's the second.
It's funny because sometimes I'll be watching an episode and I'll
creepy.
leave. I'll leave that episode to like go to a different platform. Like I'll go watch YouTube or something instead. And it'll show like yours in front of mine. And I'm like, we're watching TV at the same time.
Oh, that's cute.
But yeah, I've been trying to save it for cardio only.
I love How I Met Your Mother. It's
so good.
It's good.
I watched that recently. It's funny that we cycle through the same
stupid.
few shows.
Yeah.
The ending was a little stupid. That's where I watched it recently. We were together in Houston. I forgot we watched some.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, because it's one of
I remember
Katie's
Katie
favorite.
Ranting about the ending.
Yeah, and because this is only my second time watching it. The other shows I've watched like 8+ times through, and when she's like, when you get to the ending, text me, and I was like, it was dumb, and I'm like, yeah, it was so dumb. It was just, you built up however many seasons, that long for this, you meeting this one person, and you go and do that to her? So stupid. So stupid. Anyways, but what we're talking about today is not stupid.
At all.
Are we recording? Right? We're recording. Okay. Yeah, we're recording on all platforms. But today, I wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind a lot lately. And it's basically the fact that we often get caught in this endless trap, and we do it to ourselves. And I like to call it the moving target trap. Like when we're reaching our goals, and if this sounds like you while you're listening to this, when we're going after a goal, whether it is fitness based, we want to lose weight, or we want to compete in a show, or we want to get like a promotion, or whatever it might be. When we go after that, we have this tendency to move the target, and we do it again and again and again. And when we do this, we often don't appreciate all of the other stuff that came before.
I agree.
And I know that I have done this so much with myself with competing. So, for example, let's make it even smaller. Like, say you're going to the gym and you wanted to like lift heavier, or you wanted to run like a little bit faster, and you did those things. You PR'd a little bit, you ran a little bit faster than last time, or maybe you bodybuilding, you wanted to nail that pose that you weren't able to, and you did it. But we have this tendency to feel like it's still not enough.
Yep.
Okay, well, I PR'd on squats, but why did I not PR on all of my workouts? Well, I ran a little faster this time, but why didn't I go longer? Well, I nailed that pose that I've been working on, but why didn't I nail the entire routine? So it's like, when will it ever be enough? You know, and that's that moving target where we set a goal and maybe we do achieve it, but then we move the target further. And further and further.
And that can be a positive if you are taking the time to reflect, because obviously as you get one goal, it's good to set another that's like keeping you on that positive track. But at the same time, if you don't take a pause to realize like how far you've come, that's like a rat race that's never ending, and then you never feel fully fulfilled. I have some clients who, like, I'll give one example. One of my male clients, the goal of before summer, we set a goal of like to do this by summer. He wanted to curl 40s like consistently, like be able to get 6 or more reps, you know, because that's like a normal heavy set of
just
bicep curls.
Curling 40s right now.
Simply, I could not.
Just like with how weak our upper body has gotten.
I curl like 20s and I'm dying. And when we had started training, he voiced to me that he was afraid of picking up the 25s. Those were intimidating to him. And he like hit the 40s and he's like, but I only got 5 reps.
Exactly.
And I'm like, but 8 months ago, you were afraid of the 30 pounders.
Yes.
And then 8 months before that, you were afraid of 25s. Like you had set all these goals and you're hitting those. Like recognize that instead of being so quick to be, oh, I didn't do it to how I imagined it, so it doesn't matter, you know?
Yes. It's like we're always focused on what's missing or what we could have done better or what we don't have right now, that we miss the beauty of actually accomplishing the thing, like you were saying. And imagine if 8 months ago him that was scared of picking up that heavier weight, 8 months ago him would have been so freaking proud.
Yeah.
And then
to pick up the 40s period, let alone how many reps.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter how many reps, just let alone picking them up and having the courage to pick them up.
Yep.
And then say present him now, say in another 8 months, he's already at 50s or 55s, or he's doing 15 reps and it's a piece of cake. That version of him now would be so proud of that. And it's just, we keep moving the target, and it creates this endless cycle of, like Kendall was saying, like this race where you feel like you're this hamster that's always chasing, but never actually arriving, which is this trap that we often find ourselves in. I know that I have too. And it can be something that is just, it's very frustrating. But what's frustrating is that we do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
So along the way, we miss the beauty of progress, and progress doesn't feel like success anymore. Only the success feels like a success.
Especially,
you know what I mean?
Because progress is never linear in like any aspect of what you're working towards. And sometimes we have dips, and those dips are consistent. They're going to happen. That's what progress is all about, is about learning and making mistakes and maybe taking one step back and then 2 or 3 forward. But every time I hit dips in progress, it's so quick to be like, I failed. I'm a complete failure. And it's like, or you could give it a little more time and realize, oh, you didn't fail. You're actually still moving in the right direction towards that end goal, you know?
Exactly.
It's just never going to be perfect, and it's never going to be linear.
Yeah. It's like the second that you get close to it, you start to feel that you're getting close to it. And there's a couple things that can happen. Maybe you even sabotage, or you move the target again because you are so close, and then we end up in this like cycle.
I'm great at doing that.
I literally, I was thinking back when I was creating this outline, I thought back to when I did this, when I first started competing. And then this morning when I was editing the outline, I was editing it because I had this moment yesterday, and it happened again, where in real time, I saw myself doing it. And just like, think about how many times that you, listener, have set a goal and you've worked so hard for it. And then the moment that you get close, like instead of actually feeling that you have accomplished it and realizing, wow, how far you've come. And maybe you were intimidated to do it at first. You just immediately set your sights on the next thing. And I like to call it the like, I'll be happy when syndrome.
Yeah. We've talked about this before,
where you think, I'll be happy when I lose the weight.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when I step on stage. And that is exhausting in itself, because you spend so much of your time kind of being unhappy because you are waiting for that thing.
Yeah, you tie like your whole worth or like well-being or mental health to a result of something instead of like being present about it. That's why like every conversation I've had with other bodybuilders about me starting prep and not having a show date picked out, they are all so supportive of that, because I think we've all gone through that experience of putting all of our worth and time and energy on this one show day. And if it doesn't work out and you have to switch shows, it's this whole big thing and you're disappointed in yourself. Or on the flip side, that show day might come, you could place really well, but now it's over. Like whatever that looks like, I think as competitors continue competing, tying this to bodybuilding, a lot of us realize, oh, it's better to just prep and enjoy my prep and like focus on doing what I have to do every day, getting as lean as possible. And then we'll pick a show day a little closer, you know, instead of being like, this end day is all that matters and that's all I care about. And then once it's over, you go, okay, what next show?
Exactly.
You know?
And then all of that work that you did leading up to that one show, starts to not really matter as much because you're already setting your sights on the next show or the next challenge or whatever it might be. And this can leave a very empty feeling when you have that mindset.
Yeah.
This is why we talked about post-show blues. This is one of the reasons this happens, where when people get married, they feel very similarly, where there's so much like preparation and emotion tied to this one day, and then it's gone and you're like, man, it's like it's kind of sad. Like, well, what next? What can I do next that's gonna give me that same feeling?
Yeah, it's almost like an adrenaline thing too.
It's like this endless like chase.
Yeah.
So yesterday when I was at jujitsu, I was having such a my fucking ankle. I was having such a rough day already, and I went into jujitsu, and one thing that happens when our body. There's this book called Your Body Keeps the Score. And the way that I like to view it now is like our body will hold on to everything, everything. You've seen people that can literally make themselves sick from stress, like anxiety, whatever it might be. But when we're carrying a lot of emotions and we move our body and kind of like expel it, whether it's like yoga or it's lifting. We've had a lot of listeners say, yes, I've cried during lifts too, because you're releasing that energy that we often bottle up inside. So I was already kind of having a little bit of a low day, and I started feeling a little bit better while I was training. And then just like in the middle of it, I was like, I'm about to cry. I was like, oh my God, I'm about to cry. And, my teacher thought I was hurt. That was before I actually did it. That was before I actually hurt my anchor. He thought I was hurt because I was bending down. I had my head down because I was like, don't cry.
Yeah, you just needed a second.
Don't cry. I was like, and he's like, Julia? He's like, are you okay? Did you hurt yourself? And I said, no, I'm about to cry and I don't want to cry. And he was like, because it was like out of nowhere, because we had just done like a round. So I had expelled so much physical energy that it was now starting to release. And he paused for a moment and we kind of like took a little bit of a break and then went back to it. And then it came again. And it was just something that wasn't going to go away. And so I always get really frustrated at myself when I can't keep my like composure. It's just something that I do. I know it's not healthy and I've talked about it before, but I get really frustrated with myself. And he was like sitting there and he was like, it's okay. Like if you need to cry, it's okay. And I literally was like, no, it's not. I was like, it's not okay. Which, you know, I know that me saying that's like stupid, but he was
I get that though.
It's okay. And I was like, I'm sorry I ruined practice. He's like, you didn't ruin practice. And he's like, there's guys here. And he like points at a group of guys. He's like, that are fighting to be in the UFC and they're fighting. He's like, they cry out like all the time when they're in practice. It's just like when you put so much love and work into something that you do in your craft, like, you know?
Yeah.
And so we started talking about it a little bit and I was just getting frustrated with myself. And he's like, look at all of the stuff that you have. He literally he's like, you have an awesome YouTube channel. You have a great influence. He's like, your body can do multiple things at one time. He goes, you have an insane physique. And he's listing all of these things. And I go, so what? Like in my head, I immediately was like, and it's not enough. Like it's not. And I came back home. And then this morning remembered that. And realized that in that moment, I was doing that to myself where I was like, I'm a professional at what I do. I've grown this great business. I have this incredible community. I have amazing friends. And then in that moment, I was like, it's not enough.
I do this too because it's almost like diminishing your success or like downplaying it or not letting yourself like see it how other people might see it. And I do that all the time. And I think I think people can relate most of this in like workplace.
Yes.
Where sometimes you get that new title that like you've been working forever for like years and having a degree and working your way up. Or if that's in bodybuilding, like all the time and energy and years you've put into the gym to now get the physique you have and the work ethic you have. But it's so easy once you have those things to be like, to almost forget about all the work it took to get there.
Yes.
Which is exactly what we've been saying. But I totally get that, where anytime anyone mentions my success, I immediately downplay it, where I'm like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Yes. Oh, it's not that great. Yes. Oh, it's not, because that's almost easier than recognizing like, oh, I did work really hard for this. And I am doing really well. Did you see Timothée Chalamet's, I forget what award it was, but his speech where he talks about wanting to be great? I thought it was like a really good, it was just like his acceptance speech of an award. And he had mentioned like a lot of people like preach to being humble. And he's like, but I'm very quick to say, I want to be great. I work really hard at being a good actor. I work really hard for doing what I do. Like, I don't think I'm there yet, but I want to be great. And like, not enough people, I think, talk about wanting to be great.
Well, I think because when you talk about wanting to be great, you talk about wanting to be successful, or you even talk about the things that you're proud of, I think society is still working on that being okay to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you downplay and you talk down about yourself, that's bad. But if you're confident and you talk about the successes, that's also bad. So of course people are going to be confused, you know? So I completely understand that. And I love that take of like, I do want to be successful and I do work really hard at my craft. And I do feel like I deserve, you know, this trophy or this prize.
Because sometimes we don't feel like we deserve it, and maybe that's why we downplay it, or at least that's like some of my experience. Not saying that's related to this story about jujitsu.
I don't know if you've experienced this too, where you have seen maybe other people doing something that's way cooler or even better, and it's not that you are upset at what they're doing. It's just like, okay, but in comparison, what I'm doing is really not that cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get that.
Or you see, like for me, I'll look at, if we're talking in the bodybuilding sense, I'm like, okay, well, I see Miss Wellness Olympia. I'm not her. That's way cooler, you know? So then that downplays all of the stuff that you have done. And this is what I was talking about with the girls in the Know Your Power program. I'm like, think about it. When you started in this program, most of you didn't think you can get through these leg days. Most of you didn't understand nutrition at all. Most of you were struggling cutting out drinking on the weekend. Most of you would pass a mirror and just talk about how terrible you looked. Didn't want to wear certain clothes to the gym. I was like, and now I have seen you guys transform physically, mentally, emotionally, to where they got it like the back of their hand. It's starting to become who they are, but they constantly downplay all that work that they did to get themselves to that point. And I'm like, that's it right there. You keep moving the target because it comes from a place of, we also do expect a lot of ourselves, you know, which is an incredible thing until it's not.
That's why I'm saying it's good if you have like a healthy relationship with it. But when it is that endless, nothing is good enough or nothing is fulfilling enough, or I don't let myself congratulate myself, that's when it's like toxic. It's almost like a toxic relationship with yourself.
It's kind of like we have all of our happiness and our fulfillment riding on this one thing. And that we think that if we just get that thing, if we just like get over that line, that everything is going to make sense and that life will be easier and that you will be more confident. But when you get there, will you then just move the target again?
Probably.
You know? Hold on. I do want to play an audio into the mic. It was a post that I made on Instagram, but it ties to what I was talking about. Hopefully it'll play.
Say you could snap your fingers and be wherever you wanted to be. I bet you'd still feel this way, not in the right place. The point is, you can't get so hung up on where you'd rather be, you forget how to make the most of where you are. What are you telling me? Take a break from worrying about what you can't control. Say you could snap your fingers.
Period.
Okay, yes. And it's from like a show or a movie or something. I don't know, but I was just on my For You page trying to find like a trending sound or something. And I heard that like a day or two after I did this talk to my clients, and I was like, this is it exactly. It's like we get so hung up on where we would rather be.
Yeah.
Then we forget to make the most of where we are.
Yeah.
And we've said this countless times on this podcast, but where you're going to end up wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for where you are right now.
Also, one of my favorite trends, which I don't have an example of on me, is someone saying like people think she did the work, and then they'll show the beginning of the fitness journey and be like, I wouldn't be here without her. Like reflecting that, me with no muscle, scared, social anxiety in the gym, didn't know what I was doing, had to Google everything. She did all the work, really. Yes. I'm just maintaining what she did.
Exactly.
You know?
She was the one that started it all. She's the one that had the courage to step into the gym and maybe hide in the corner. She's the one that had the courage to hire a coach, or I remember me like researching and spending hours researching nutrition and understanding calories and macros. That's such a good point.
Yeah, well, they're similar where it's like reflect, because now if you're so focused on future you, remember like how much you're doing right now for yourself, or like how much you're working towards those goals right now. And it's all about just like being present, or even like reflecting in the past in a positive way and realizing like how far you've come or all the work you've done to get to where you are now. Because when we do daydream about like our future or wanting other things, or we're making those vision boards, like it's easy to get caught up in like the new shiny thing that you're working towards. When really like I always try to, it's a conscious thing. It's definitely not like natural for me, but I try to like thank younger Kendall. I'm like, thank goodness you got through that. Or like, thank goodness you made this decision. Because I don't think we realize the decisions we're making currently, how much they affect future us. And that's never ending.
Yeah. I mean, that is so true. And it's definitely, it's hard to recognize when you're doing it, I think. And I literally did it yesterday and didn't recognize until this morning when I was going over this outline and making sure that it was what I wanted to say. And I was like, I literally did it yesterday.
Exposed.
I literally did it yesterday. And even in the previous episode that we were talking about, when we were talking about nutrition, where we now, like years later, we can go to a restaurant and understand calories and macros like that. Yeah. We can intuitively eat and understand where we need to fuel ourselves. And how I remember when I used to be so confused, so lost, didn't understand anything, and only wished that I can understand calories and macros like I do now.
Yeah.
You know, and now I'll be sitting here and be like, and and it's like sometimes you just want to shake yourself, but yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this and you're working towards a goal and maybe you have had some success in it, like you have PR'd in the gym, like your legs have grown, you have gotten so much more discipline, you're doing a bunch of habits that you haven't done before, all of these things that you just shove aside and don't really seem like they're that big of a deal. There's some people that could only dream of wanting to do that, that maybe want to have the courage to do that, but never won't.
Yeah.
Never will.
Never will.
Never will. So just think about that. I think there is so much power in taking a moment to pause and appreciate all of the work that you have done that's brought you to this point now, but also have that healthy view of what your next goal is and have your sights set on that, but not forgetting that girl that brought you to this very moment in time.
That's one of my favorite things about social media is like you can physically go back and look at it. It's like very evident to watch your journey. And again, nothing is linear. So it's fun for me to look back on when I was really lean and then when I weighed like 200 pounds. Like I've been on every aspect of the spectrum with fitness, and it's fun to like use both of those as motivation, where like I keep reflecting on my last prep now 4 years later. And it would be so easy to be like, I'm never going to look like that again. That was the leanest I've ever been. I weigh so much now. I think
you're
so
going
much
to be leaner than last time.
So that's how I keep viewing it, is I just keep going, I can't wait to blow that out of the water, because that's all about perspective, is like how you view things, where I also have had clients be like, I looked at old photos of myself and I realize like how I let myself go here or how I'm not working on that now. And I'm like, you're here with me in the gym right now. You're working on that. You're heading in the right direction. Use that as motivation instead of like, oh, I'll never feel fulfilled again because I don't look that way, you know? So it's just perspective.
Definitely. And like that person, that woman that you are creating, this is something I like to tell the girls in my program is that let's call it you're building her. There is so many different realities that you can go down just based off of one small choice. So let's say that out there's a version of me that stayed as a hairstylist. There's a version of me out there. I could have easily made that decision and almost did. There's a version of me out there that did my first bodybuilding show and didn't really like it. That never got back on track after my post-show blues and realizing I was struggling with binging. There's a version of me that didn't get back up. There's also a version of me out there that is on the Olympia stage, which is what I am working towards now. All of the little choices and decisions we make every single day, there's so many possible realities out there.
Exactly.
So everything that you're doing now is building her. And you can embody that feeling of what it feels like to be her now. And you don't have to delay your gratification, your happiness, feeling confident for when you reach that thing.
Yeah.
You can embody it now because eventually present you is going to meet future you. There's been so many times in my life where I have met that future version of me, but I didn't realize
it's like a little trippy when you do realize it though.
Yes.
Because you're like, whoa, I've been thinking about and dreaming for this moment for so long. And a lot of people experience that doing their first bodybuilding show, where whether you win or not, it's like you didn't even think you were going to make it to stage and now you're here and now you're living it. And it is, my biggest tip to every first time competitor, or if you've competed 100 times, it really doesn't change. It's like, be as present as possible. You worked so hard for this moment, whether you're tying your worth to that day or not, like you still want to be really present and recognize all the work it took to get you to that place. You know, that's always like the surreal one for me is every show day. I'm like, oh, I did it. I made it. I've been thinking about this day for so long and now I'm here and living it and I am her. Yeah.
And if anything, too, I don't know if you feel the same way, but whenever I think back to some of my biggest moments when I achieved something that I was working for, the first thing that I think about isn't when I got my IFBB Pro card handed to me. It's not when I was top 5 at a pro show. Like, it's not when I started my business. It's really not any of those moments. It's actually those moments before that I think about. Like, even when it was my pro show, I remember thinking about the moments of the Stairmaster in the morning when I was there for 2 hours and I had to push for 2. Like, those are the things that I think about when you're doing the work to get to the goal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you the same?
I'm the same, but I think it's because we do get very fulfilled by the effort more than the like congratulations of it all.
Yeah.
So some of that might be taught too. Some of that might be.
I think I had to teach myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I definitely had to teach myself to be more in the moment of everything.
I agree. Because when I reflect back on things I've done that I would pinpoint as like successful moments, I definitely think more about like what led up to that and how I was feeling than like the moment itself. So I think I agree. Yeah,
because it can be really empowering thinking about how you felt in that moment. I mean, I even had this realization the other day when I was filming my YouTube video where I finally went back into the posing room, which I hadn't really been in there in a couple of months. And I was talking to YouTube and I was telling them, I can sit here now being this, future version of me. And I can think back to when I was sitting in here. And sometimes I would just come lay in there and just lay on the floor. I would practice my posing routine over and over and over again. And I couldn't get it right. And I would get frustrated. And then I would just say, you know what? It's okay. We need to leave. Like, I can remember all of those moments and now be on the other side. Like, it was all fine.
It was never that deep.
It was never that deep. It's fine.
Yeah, I get the same way too.
Yeah. So basically, what you're doing right now is building her. Whatever that version looks like for you, it's going to be different for everybody that's listening. But all of that matters, and it deserves to be appreciated. And once you start getting close to it and you feel it coming, all your work is starting to pay off. Don't move the target.
Or don't downplay the fact that you're there.
Don't move the target. And what I say by that, what I mean by that is I'm not saying don't create bigger, better goals. I'm saying you reach it. Wow. I appreciate it. We
Sit
did
in
it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Sit in it. Don't move it and say, well, it doesn't look like this. Well, I'm not on the Olympia stage. Well, I'm not an IFBB pro, or I'm not at my goal weight. So none of this really matters. Don't do that.
Don't.
Anyways, so how can we get away from this mindset? And the first thing is flip the script. So anytime that you're saying, I'm not there yet, start saying things like, look how far I have come. Because these seemingly like small wins, like putting in the reps, drinking your water, getting up, going to the gym, doing these things that a huge amount of the population doesn't do.
Yeah.
Really. There's a reason why America is the most unhealthy country. These seemingly small things are building that unstoppable momentum that will inevitably lead you to that success that you desire. The next thing is to measure the right things. So I feel like we commonly measure success as only the actual achievement. So the promotion, the trophy, the goal weight, I don't know, what other things do people, I always relate it to bodybuilding, so I'm trying to think of other things, but we only view success as that.
Yeah.
What if we flipped it and also viewed success as other measures of putting in the reps, checking off your list, going to the gym even when it's the last thing that you want to do? We often don't see that as a success at all. It's only like the thing.
That's why throughout this year, I think I've talked more about like giving 100% of whatever I have that day. So sometimes I go into the gym, actually literally Monday this week, I had a tummy ache and I got to the gym and I was really motivated and I had like a lot of goals as far as like not necessarily PRing, but pushing really heavy on certain things and doing my post-workout cardio. And like, I had this tier list in my head where I was like, this is what success would look like leaving the gym today. And I got there and the first exercise, my stomach was like not okay. And I was in a lot of pain. And instead I kind of had to go through the motions, but I still did everything, just not as it looked in my head. And I think old me would have left the gym being like, that didn't count. That sucked. When in the grand scheme of things, that workout is still, and doing that cardio when I didn't want to is still getting me a lot closer to my end goal and a lot closer to stepping on stage, where if I just went home as soon as my stomach hurt, you know?
That is a success.
So yeah, it's all about like how you view it more than what you're actually doing.
Yep.
And I think some of that is not putting your expectations so damn high that it's almost impossible to hit.
Oh, for sure.
Because I do that a lot too, where I put a lot of pressure on myself, but then like my measure of success is so outrageous that it's like, you knew you weren't going to hit that this month. You know?
It's like 150%. And you give like, let's say 100%, but you're like, it wasn't 150%.
Like if I had my clothing and let's say I had like 500 shirts and my goal was like, I have to sell all 500 first day. And it's like, why?
Yep.
Like, why put that weird external pressure that's not even in your control? Like, how about you just view like, I hope this launch goes smoothly, you know, because that's the win. That is a win of like putting something out, or like you could tie it to bodybuilding so easily as far as like weight loss goals or whatever, of like doing your cardio today is the win, not tied to, well, the scale didn't move.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that takes time.
Yeah, you're still doing the steps that's required for you to lose that 10 or 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is talking to yourself more like a coach rather than a critic. So just the way that you come on here and like we inspire or try to motivate you, inspire you, and like speak more love into you, do that to yourself. Most of the time we have like our inner critic is just like, meh, 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 meh. And
so
sometimes it's harder than others to kind of flick that little devil off of your shoulder. I understand that. But just think about if we were standing right next to you and we were speaking the way that we do here to you, do you speak that way to yourself? And would you go up to your friend and be like, I mean, I know that you've been working towards doing a plate on each side for a squat, but honestly, that sucked. You should have done like 10 extra. You would literally not do that.
Yeah, this ties into self-worth too, where I have a client who actually taught me something because I don't have kids yet, where what has helped her with positive self-speech is she says, well, two things. One, I would never say that to my daughter. I would kill someone if they said that to my daughter. And number two, I don't want to set that example for her where I am talking negatively about my own body or my own looks, where I think you get that perspective switch when you do eventually have kids, where you realize, oh, I'm not just... me saying I look fat in this shirt is not just affecting me. They're hearing that, they're seeing that, they're perceiving that, you know? So even if it isn't like yourself catching it, like catch it for other people too. Where like, how does this affect the people in the room when I say this negative thing about myself? Even if it's internal.
That's very true.
You never want to, and then the same perspective is like, well, if it's affecting my daughter hearing me say these things, what is it doing to my brain when I say it every day? You know,
what is it doing to my daughter? And this is stuff that can literally be passed down from where maybe your client's mom, let's say your client's mom did that, didn't really recognize and didn't know it. Then now the little girl grows up and she does it, doesn't really notice it because it's kind of just what she's seen, and it just gets passed down. Who's going to be the one to stop that? Yeah. That could be you.
Exactly.
Can be the one to stop that. And there is something that came up while you were talking was, I feel like a lot of this can obviously be traced back to childhood. And there are a lot of children who, whether it was academics, whether it was like sports or something, that have parents that always praised them or only praised them when they did good in academics or when they did well in athletics. So that's nice to get the praise from your parents, but there is a chance that this can turn into something that I need to succeed and do something, quote unquote, of value or worth in order to be loved.
Yeah, for sure. It's tying your worth to it, which is exactly what we said. We're trying to break the cycle.
You know what I mean? And I honestly, I worry about that. I do worry about it. I'm glad that I am aware of it because I know I'm totally going to be.
Catch yourself.
I'm totally going to be like a sports mom.
That's how my mom is. So probably
I know that I'm going to be a sports mom, but it's my job when I do become a mom to really monitor the things that I say to myself in the mirror. And that's why I'm doing it so much now.
Yeah.
I am trying to make it a habit now to not think and definitely not speak those things to myself when I look at myself in the mirror.
Well, I feel like it affects how other people can see you too. Where like, I have a deviated septum and a very crooked nose, and everyone I've ever met and I've told that to go, no, you don't. But now that I pointed it out, it's like, oh, let me share all my flaws with you. Well, let me like complain about myself to you. And then people, whether they start to see it or not, like it still kind of changes their perspective of like, okay, this girl in front of me is very self-conscious. She feels like just all of these traits I didn't want to associate with, I used to put out there where like, I think I was so self-conscious. My self-esteem was really low.
So you wanted to put yourself down before anyone else could?
For sure. I was such a self-deprecating that I kind of tied my sense of humor to it too, where I was like, that's what makes me funny and relatable. And it's like, no, it just kind of makes everyone around you uncomfortable. Like, it's actually not that funny and kind of sad how much I like put myself down.
If you have ever been around somebody that is constantly tearing themselves down, it gets old. And the reason that it gets old is because it's so hard to see and to watch. And at a certain point, it doesn't matter what you say. It's not going to change you've already tried. It is really difficult. And this is a good thing to talk about because you listener, us, we could be that and we don't really realize it, you know? So I don't even know how we got into this topic, but on being a coach rather than a critic in the way that we talk to ourselves. But I think that was a really good tangent to go on to. But like a lot of this can just be caught as a child and you just don't really realize it. And then you end up doing the same things.
Yep.
The next one is reframing setbacks as setups, because we've talked about how sometimes we set our expectations like so high and unrealistic for ourselves that we feel like a failure if it's not what we thought it should look like, or we're not hitting the goal in the time frame that we expected, or we're doing it at a different age than this other person did, and view it as a chance for you to learn something about it. Like if your workout sucked or something, like if you felt like it sucked.
I have a really good post that ties into this.
Ooh.
Let me pull it up real quick. I think I saved it. I hope I saved it.
I'll continue talking until you find it. But if you feel like you go into a workout, like Kendall was saying about her workout, and you feel like, okay, it didn't go as well. It can literally just be data. It could literally just be data. No,
exactly. That's it. Actually, exactly.
Oh, really?
What this is.
It could just be data. Like, what can I do different?
So this is a post that, like, I'm someone who recently has really reframed what like failure means, because every time I've ever failed or something was so disastrous or I was like the worst mental health I've ever been, I've only ever gotten way better because of it, or learn something because of it, where I'm that person where like, I'm sure it's obnoxious in the moment where I'm like, where's the lesson in this? Because it truly helps. But I saw this post that kind of ties into it in like a statistical sense or an analytical sense. And I'm just going to read some of these off because it's a long post. The first one is Mr. Beast uploaded 455 videos before going viral. Picasso created 20,000 pieces of artwork before the world recognized his genius. Walt Disney turned 300 rejections into the most magical brand on earth. There's more. Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school 3 times before now being one of the most famous directors. Like, this just goes on and on, where like none of these people had anything special about them. They just kept working for it. And if you just keep showing up instead of letting those failures win, or like keep you from being happy, or keep you from going after the next target or next goal in a positive way, like, who knows where you could have ended up if you stuck with it, you know? My
mind went to C-Bum did 1,000,000,001 hours of working out before he became Mr. Olympia. You know what I mean? That's definitely a made up. Send it to me on Instagram. I will. But no, I love that. I love that so much. That is so true. And that stuff is the stuff that we don't see. You know, you see her. The end result, like you were talking about before with the, if you have like the physique that you desire, you forget about the girl who started it, you know, we don't see that. And I think it's important to have still that connection to her because she gave you so much. Yeah, because if you view these things as failures and then you give up, then like you'll never get there. But if you view these things as like, oh, I learned from that. Oh, that video got a little more views. Let me go down this path, or whatever that is. That's the Mr. Beast example of it all. But you won't get there unless you like continue, you know? Exactly. And that it can be very hard, especially when you are going through something that is really tough, really challenging. Or if you've been stuck for a while. That's always mentally challenging. It's really hard to sometimes see the bright side. Yeah. You know, and see where the lesson is. Like, there has been a lot of times where I know in my true heart of hearts that everything that I'm going, every single morning I write this in my journal. This experience is shaping you for the woman, basically for the woman that you need to be for everything that's coming. Yeah. I know that I needed to go through this in order to get to that next version of me. I know that in my heart of hearts, But some days I'm like, I don't get the lesson. I don't understand God. This is stupid. I don't get it. And then the next day I'll be like, no, babe, like I totally understand.
Yeah.
This is teaching me. I've already learned so much from it so far. So I'm excited to learn more as I go, but take it as data.
Mm-hmm. And like, how can I improve next time?
Yes. How you can shift, like even something as simple as like, I had a crappy workout. I had no energy and my energy tanked. Mm-hmm. Take a look at your meal plan. Mm-hmm. Where can you adjust your carbs?
Yeah.
Was your meal timing off? Did you get good sleep? Is there something you're stressed about at work? Like taking it to more of like a training aspect of it, but use it as an opportunity instead of feeling like you were a failure.
Yep.
Because you're not.
You're not.
The next one, focus on the process, not just the prize. Your goal isn't just to hit like a certain number on the scale or to like achieve a look or to get a promotion. It's who you become while in pursuit of that thing. Mm-hmm. All of the stuff that I have learned about competing and becoming a good bodybuilder was learned in the pursuit of becoming a pro.
Yeah.
In the pursuit of winning a trophy. I didn't learn that when I was on stage.
Yeah, you don't get the trophy and go, I'm a bodybuilder now.
No.
You became a bodybuilder every single session you had before then.
Everything.
Yeah.
And that's why like we do love it so much, because I like shed another layer. Mm-hmm. I learn more about myself and I can do it in like a collapsed amount of time, you know, while being put under and putting myself under an extreme amount of pressure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you put yourself in a little pressure cooker on purpose to see how you show up. The next one is catch yourself in the act while you're doing it. So the next time that you're saying like, I should be further along, pause and just be like, says who?
Yeah.
Says who?
So true.
Because most likely if you have a solid friend group or parents or support system, most likely they're not saying that to you. Most likely you're saying that to you. You're the one that's saying, I should be there though. I should look like that though. But I should have the confidence like she does. But you're doing it.
I had a listener message me recently about like potentially having to pull out of her prep. Mm-hmm. And her biggest concern was like, am I letting my friends and family down? And I was like, you're doing this for you.
Yeah.
And if you're prioritizing you, your health, your mental health, everyone else is going to understand
Everyone else can shut the fuck up.
They're not going to be disappointed. Yeah. You're putting that pressure on yourself. Mm-hmm. They're likely trying to support you, so it might feel that way. But like bodybuilding and going to the gym, especially your weight loss journey, especially is so within yourself that like other people's opinions or pressure really doesn't, like it shouldn't matter. Yeah. Well, like what matters is how you feel about your journey and how you feel along the way. And if you feel awful, it's okay to switch gears to a different goal.
Yeah. You just reminded me of, I can't remember what show it was, but I have a feeling it was my pro debut because I had to keep moving my show date because I switched coaches halfway through. Zach and I went through our first breakup a week out. Like there was so many different circumstances that were happening that, you know, my body wasn't responding. I was fed up with everything and I had to keep pushing my show to different dates. And I kept feeling this pressure that I had to choose one and I had to commit to one for my friends and my family, when I realized that, oh, I'm the one that's putting the pressure on where to compete and when it's going to happen. It wasn't my family or friends at all. I was making that up. I was literally making it up because when I finally talked to my parents about this feeling, they were like, you can compete anywhere at any time and we will be there. Exactly. We're just excited. That's it. And I was like, oh, I literally made it up.
It's the same thing exactly as you're saying, is like, who told you had to be ready a certain day?
Says who?
You told yourself.
So true.
That happens a lot though.
The only timeline that matters is yours. Progress is going to be so different for everybody, and it's going to happen at your pace, at your time. I know that whenever you were talking about that post, there's one actor. Dang it, I can't remember.
Might have been on the list.
It was one actor that he didn't like make it big until he was like in his 50s or something. I'm sorry that I don't have the exact one.
Inspired
You know what I mean?
by actors or comedians or YouTubers, whatever level of success. And those are obviously just like in all of our feeds. So that's who I'm relating to. But this could be like someone getting a promotion very late into their career, whatever it looks like. I'm always more motivated by people who get that level of success later in life, because I feel like it gives me peace of mind of like, there is no correct timeline. Yes. You don't have to be a millionaire by 21. Yes. Like, it's okay. Yep. Like, some people don't reach their desired level of success until their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. Why? Because they have more experience at that point. They have more life experience to pull from. They have more work they've put into maybe avenues that quote unquote failed that they learned as lessons, you know? So I'm always way more motivated by those stories than like one-off, like very young, successful type of motivation.
Yeah. I mean, I just looked up like trying to see who I was talking about. And I've just pulled up a couple of them, and it was like Morgan Freeman didn't break it until his late 40s. Harrison Ford was 35. I mean, that's not old. Steve Carell was 40s. There's one person I'm talking about, and it might have been, I don't even know if it was an actor. It might have been like a
Sofia Vergara's one.
That's true.
She started acting late 30s.
It might have been like an entrepreneur business podcast guy or something. Millionaire, billionaire, whatever. It might have been one of those. But regardless, because I think that a lot of people believe that age is a factor with how much time that you have to do certain things.
For sure.
Yeah, I do that to myself too.
I do that a
even
lot.
When I turned 28, I was like, I'm almost 30. My life is over. Like, I'll constant. And then people are like, you're so young. You're so young.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you always feel like you're running out of time, while simultaneously that there's never enough time.
I wonder if social media causes a lot of that like age anxiety, and not like I don't fear getting older, but I do fear getting certain things done in a certain amount of time. I'm the same exact way, where I'm like, I need this measure of success, or I need to accomplish this by this like age marker for some reason. But I think maybe social media is the catalyst for that, because we get to see what everyone else is doing. And obviously it's a highlight reel. So if you're like, that girl's able to take a vacation every week, that girl owns this brand new car, like, it's so easy to compare, instead of be like, oh, but I'm on my own journey and I have my own measures of success and I have my own things I'm working towards. It's very easy to compare to other people.
That's very true, because it's like a big pile of people doing that thing all in one place. And then when you just like put your phone down and you get out of that reality and you're just kind of living your regular life, you're like, okay,
oh, I'm doing okay.
Okay. Like, whoa. But yeah, couch yourself in the act. Says who? The last one is embody her now. Do not delay the gratification for that thing. We always believe that it's going to like make sense, or we're going to crack the code, or if I just get this, if I just have this, then it'll all make sense. You're building her now, and all of the things that you're doing for yourself day in and day out is in preparation for her.
Yeah. We actually did a Becoming Her series that I would recommend, or we could do something similar. I guess this is episode 1 of that. We could sprinkle them in here and there, or do a series on it. But it is true. You just have to like embody it. And like, I'm always a fan of fake it till you make it, because if you start acting a certain way or viewing yourself a certain way, after a few weeks, it's just how you are and how you think and how you react to things. It's no longer like an active choice.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy now, whenever I'm feeling not like myself, or a little bit more self-conscious or less confident, it is very apparent when I'm feeling one or the other. Like, it is a drastic difference. Whereas before, I just felt like crappy all the time. I would hide all the time. So there's little things that I will do to kind of like correct myself in the moment, whether it is like changing how I'm speaking, whether it's like literally pulling my chest up and my head up, like little things that can remind me of like, okay, you might feel this way right now, but today, tomorrow, the next week, you can feel completely different. So I'll try to do those things. And then eventually I feel a little bit better.
Exactly. That's the fake it till you make it mine. Wait, what did you change it to? Delulu till it's Tralulu?
Delulu till it's Tralulu.
Yeah. If you can tell yourself lies all day, why not make them positive lies?
I know.
Why like convince yourself that you are going to fail when you could convince yourself you're going to succeed at it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
Be delusional in the best way possible. And then eventually it's just reality. It's not delusional.
Eventually it's reality. And then you feel like you're living in the Matrix because everything that you ever dreamed and wished for, you're actually living right now, but you haven't been able to appreciate it because you keep moving the target. Exactly. And then you're like, oh, I did it.
I did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think take some extra time today, especially just to reflect on younger you or past you and be like, you know, she would be really dang proud of where I am now.
She would be.
She didn't think she was capable of like overcoming what she had been going through at that time, let alone like the years to come, you know?
Even when I watch back like my first YouTube video that I ever did versus like my most recent, and that's what is really cool about documenting your life is that you can visually see. I hid in my car. And I would talk in my car. I would be scared if someone would come next to me. And I can see the way that I know that I would film it multiple times. Now I don't give a. And I only wished then that I had the confidence now to speak and not care if it came out right.
Yeah.
To stutter, to lose my train of thought, to have to say, I don't care now.
This podcast has helped me a lot with that. Yeah. And that ties into public speaking, meeting new people, creating conversations with strangers, because now I'm like, if I could yap all day and not really care, then you can interact with other people better too, where I feel like it like whatever, that's one of those things. Like I didn't know starting this podcast would affect those aspects of my life, you know?
I did.
That's why we're
did,
here.
Because it did for me.
Yeah.
You know, when it started with me just speaking on a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that gave me the courage to do YouTube and then to public speak and then to things.
Exactly.
And then
now you host events.
Yeah. And where people come to hear me talk. I'm like,
crazy.
Who literally would ever care what little doodadish me has to say? It's so,
a lot of people.
It's so dumb. Life is so crazy.
It is.
But yeah, I'm also very proud of you.
Aw.
That like,
thanks.
I know that when we first met, both of us, we were very low, we weren't very confident. Like
it's crazy because I never viewed you like that though. Like I was like, Julia is the most confident person I've ever seen.
I didn't view myself that. I know, and I can even look back like just on photos of us, and like we even had like little baby faces and stuff.
It's funny.
And just how much you have grown and blossomed, and
you're gonna make me cry.
It's like insane.
Thanks.
It's insane because
same to you.
I mean, like I can see from like outsider, like being a friend, and just whoa.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You're so nice.
Even to like having your own brand and to talking. And I remember there were times where we wouldn't talk to anybody because we were just scared of talking to people, you know, and now people can come up to you and you have full like conversations and you correct yourself like in real time. And I know both of us, we really struggled with doing that.
But I feel like having an
so
honest like female friendship like what we have has helped so much, because we've had like a few moments throughout our friendship where you've called me out on my bullshit.
Yeah.
Where you're like, hey, notice this about you, quit doing that. And I'm like, I did not realize I was doing that, which is why like surrounding yourself with the right people. And now like our friend group kind of keeps expanding, which is really sick. And we keep doing things on weekends. And like,
so crazy.
I even met a girl at the gym recently and I was like, I feel like I should invite her to one of our next like things. So it snowballs when you feel good and you're making other people feel good. And then you meet like friend groups where now all of us, I feel like, keep leveling up together, which is sick. Which like I had never even, again, one of these reflection things, I didn't think I was capable of having like strong female friendships.
Me either.
And it's like, this sounds so corny, but the other day I was talking, I think, to a client or like a family member, and I was like, oh yeah, well, when I'm with my friends, and I was like, I have friends.
I have friends.
I have like a group of friends who I feel so comfortable around.
I never thought that I would have like a group of friends.
Yeah.
Like when you're little, you always see these like movies and shows of like girl groups where like, I'm just thinking like Sex and the City. Like let's just that. Where there's like 4 girls and, you know, Samantha's this and Carrie's like this. I can see that within our group now where there's literally no negative energy. No one's jealous of each other.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants the best. There's
just a good
support
time.
and like, I got you no matter what.
Yeah.
And again, with the topic that we're talking about, I literally believed when me and you met, I even told Zach, what's wrong with me? Why can't I make friends with women? And I now, hindsight, realize that I needed to do the work within myself so that I could be the type of woman that can attract the ones that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And now we have this group and I'm like, we've all met each other in the strangest ways. And I was just like, let's just smush us all together.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
It's cool. You know, this is what I'll end the friend thing on, because I got really emotional about my future before meeting up with everyone the other day. I literally started crying. Granted, I was on like 4 hours of sleep and drove in from Houston. So I think I was just a mess. But on my drive, I was talking to my brother, and I don't know how we got on the topic of like weddings. I think someone was getting married like in our family or friend group or whatever. And I was like, I always joked about like, can my brothers be my bridesmaids? And then for the first time I was like, I have friends that could be my bridesmaids.
Right.
Because I always was like, I guess I'll have a small wedding because I won't have a wedding party.
Yeah. For me, it was always like, well, I don't know if I would have any bridesmaids to fill. And now I'm like, I don't know if I have enough spaces to fill and put everyone. Obviously, I'm very far away from getting married.
Same.
You're closer than I am at this point.
Still a bit distant.
But now I'm like, I never thought. So, you know, this is just a testament to all the girls out there that are listening, that if you work on becoming the best version of you, you will attract other women out there that are the same.
Yeah, sometimes you have to lead by example, and sometimes you have to have honest conversations. Maybe you have a girl in your life who you're like, we can level up together, like let's do this. Just having those conversations where like, again, if you didn't push me in certain things, maybe I wouldn't have recognized it in myself. And like, I feel like that's one of the key traits everyone in our friend group has, is everyone's very honest and like very open, and we will talk about anything and everything. And I feel like that's important to have that within yourself too. If you're not being honest with yourself, if you're not showing up how you want to show up, you're not going to fully bathe in the success once you get it, or the friend group once you have it, because maybe you feel like, one, you don't deserve it, or two, it's like not right, where maybe you're trying to make it work, but that's not the friend group for you, or that's not the job for you, or the whatever outcome, you know?
We're most like the 5 people that we surround ourselves with. And I am very proud to be like, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. If I'm like even a little like Kendall, or a little like Maya, or as badass as Alexa, or as kind and nurturing as Chloe, you know, as like outspoken as Katie, and like fun and just happy about life, I was like, I would be honored to be
exactly
those 5 people.
It is crazy how different but similar all of our personalities are too.
I know.
So how cute.
Sorry, we have tangents.
We got sappy.
But yeah, guys, we love you guys so much. And you're more powerful than you think.
Bye.